This isn't any regular heat. This is nuclear heat. Live from the 93.7 The Ticket studios in the heart of Lincoln, America. Bringing you the latest from the Square Circle on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Here is your host, Jake Bakovic.
All right, glad to be with you here on another Tuesday evening, talking some wrestling on 93.7 The Ticket. Wouldn't have it any other way. I'm Jake Bakovic, your host, along with my tag team partner, Nuclear Heat contributor Augie Pena, as we jump into post Battle in Berlin, a good premium live event put on by WWE this past weekend. I know some of us had to kind of juggle that with college football opening, and by some of us, I definitely mean me. So my Bash in Berlin experience was later at night because I had to watch college football all day long. When I say had to, I mean chose to. I guess a little bit had to because of my day job, but for the most part, I just love college football opening. I don't think that's uncommon among wrestling fans. I think wrestling fans are you know, they're football fans in general. So a lot of fun there, and maybe a good time and maybe a good reason to take that premium live event out to Berlin, out to Germany. Ultimately, we're going to break it down. We're going to talk about SmackDown and Raw, and we got a couple news stories to get through here in the next hour. So grab a seat, sit down, enjoy some wrestling talk here on 93.7 The Ticket. I will say this about Battle in Berlin, especially after watching Raw last night. It was one that you didn't necessarily have to watch. I mean, a lot of these feuds are just kind of continuing right through Battle in Berlin. But as usual with an overseas crowd, it was incredible. So they kind of brought the heat to it. Of course, they did SmackDown in Berlin as well. And so lots to kind of break down, lots of fun, I think, was had over the weekend from Friday in Berlin, Friday and Saturday in Berlin, and then last night as well on Raw. A couple news stories to get to. According to PW Insider, Asuka has signed a new multi-year contract with WWE while she is rehabbing that injury, which is always good news. Asuka, I think, has the Empress of Tomorrow, has been fantastic, multi-time women's champion, and somebody you can kind of throw into that mix as much as you want, or whatever you want, and not feel like it is a surprise or like she couldn't win the match. Interesting to see what they'll do with her moving forward. Damage Control, of course, she was most recently with Damage Control. And I feel like they're missing her a little bit. Io Sky and Kairi Sane are two of my favorite female wrestlers on the roster. But in Io Sky, they put over. They made her the women's champion over the last year. So they've done what they can, but I think that group definitely could use Asuka. But like I said, when you have such a great single star, you know, in a faction, can sometimes get overlooked. So I'm interested to see how they bring her back.
Yeah, it'll be interesting there. They, like you said, they really do need her. And Asuka, well, I'll say, you know, with Damage Control for a little bit there, it was maybe a little stale. Man, just being gone, you can feel that impact. And the women's division kind of doesn't need it. You know, there's only a couple true storylines that are making, how do I put it, like stars, you know, that have the true stars. So it is always good there. And, you know, she is surprisingly a little bit up there in age. You know, so, you know, you never know when her last WWE contract will be, but it is a good sign that she did sign there, and hopefully we get her back soon.
Yeah, it's surprising. I know a lot of the wrestlers are in their 40s, so It's not as surprising, but she is 42. Of course, had a long career in Japan and overseas before she made it to WWE, and has done well from NXT to, again, the main roster. I don't even know how long it's been, probably almost 10 years now that she's been on there, but good to see her moving forward. I think the wrestling community as a whole will celebrate more Asuka in the WWE. The wrestling community as a whole will not celebrate more Hulk Hogan in the WWE, but he announced today in an interview with Logan Paul that he has also signed a multi-year, I believe it was a 5-year contract with WWE. Now, obviously, this is a Legends contract, so don't expect him to break in and break up some bloodline storylines like he says that Logan Paul maybe should do, if you heard it today as he sat down with Logan Paul. But he's fascinating in his own right. Obviously has out of the ring controversy, we'll put it that way. And so the wrestling community as a whole does not embrace him, but there are those that do. And it's always one of those things where, you know, and again, I don't know. He talked today too about certain time passing or second chances and all that stuff. So it's up to you whether you want to forgive him for his transgressions. But He's one of those guys where if you do hold it against him, the out of the ring stuff, it's still hard not to get excited when his music hits, because he is, and we talked about this on 93.7 The Ticket, whether it be Adam Carricker or DP. Many would put him as the best wrestler of all time. Certainly helped bring wrestling to the next level at WrestleMania 3 with Andre, and through the 80s into the 90s, and then of course rejuvenating a little bit with NWO. So it's interesting, but and so they got to be careful, because they're not going to get the overwhelming cheers that they get. I mean, at times they've brought him back and he's been outwardly booed.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting to see how WWE deals with him, because sometimes, they have a game plan and you can switch it based on the crowd reaction. But in that moment, if you're expecting cheers and you're getting boos, you have to kind of change up what you're doing there. So are you still excited when you see Hulk Hogan on the WWE screen?
Not as much as I was, before I got a little bit older. He, like you said, he's the action figures of the 90s, the 2000s. He was the main, one of the main guys there. And I do think they've been smart over the past couple years. Like, he hasn't been, feuds or wrestling really as much. It's mostly just here and there, we'll get a pop, and I think that's kind of what they need to continue to do with him, because as you said, the last couple times it's just been, the overwhelming boos. They've kind of got to put the cheers in there. And the older we are, it's harder to overlook, some of the outside things, and some of the outside things aren't great. What you hear, and it just sounds like he's not that great of a person. And it's really hard to cheer for that, but at the same time, it's hard to not acknowledge, just kind of how big of an influence he was, and kind of, like you said, kickstarted, a lot of this stuff. And, a lot of what we see is because of him on there. So, keep him. That's great. They don't want him to go to other promotions, that's probably why they did that there. But, I'm not as much looking forward to, all those Hulk Hogans, but it's good if they only have him like once a year, twice a year.
You're not a Hulkamaniac?
I was, but not as much. No,
Yeah.
I'm not as much.
He's also he was always somewhat stiff because of his muscular build, but the older he gets, they probably shouldn't have him do too many spots anymore.
Yeah. Although I will say, I find myself, for some reason, I say brother a lot.
Yeah, there you go.
And, so his catchphrases are still there. Like I said, it's hard to overlook some of those things. Like I said, still a legend, did a lot. But he's not somebody I go crazy for, and I'll also say this. I feel like they're doing a better job, but they kind of over pushed him, kind of like Ric Flair there for a while. If somebody was returning, it was Ric Flair, it was Hulk Hogan, it was those guys. And I feel like sometimes you got to let them kind of just sit for a little bit and then bring them back, make us miss them a little bit. But it was, they were kind of shoving them down our throats, I feel like, for a while there. And you're like, oh, Hulk Hogan's kind of like the Dudley Boys. I feel like they've been, or one of those, I
always get excited when the Dudley Boys, you get fireworks and what's not to like, tables.
I mean, it's fun, but what I'm saying is, it's like, oh, a legend, a surprise, they're hyping it.
Yeah.
It's probably, the Dudley Boys that are coming through. Yeah, they'll put someone through the table. That's fun. I like them in Philly, but, that's kind of what they did with Hogan there for a while. And, just need to kind of chill it. It's been a while since we've seen him. All right, I can go a while.
Controversial opinion. I feel the same about Undertaker, and I know most people that's going the wrong way, and they put it in the WrestleMania main event and all that. But it's a combination of how long it takes him to get to the ring and the fact that he is always, he has been a surprise return for a better part of a decade.
I will say they did the WrestleMania perfectly, though. I think that was great. I would have loved if it was Stone Cold how it was supposed to be.
Yes,
but the Undertaker was great. That's fun. But I agree. He was supposed to have retired 4-5 WrestleManias ago, and he's still at every WrestleMania. So I kind of agree with you. It's nice to see him, but they need to let him chill a little bit. Then you could bring him back in a couple of years.
If he's like 4 years off of television, then you hear the gong, I'll go crazy. But if it's it's every 7 months, it's like, well, okay.
Well,
Undertaker's back.
And me, I love The Rock, but I felt like they kind of did that to him, with him for a little bit.
They didn't have the best have him return the best. Either this past time.
Like it was cool, when he did come back after that extended leave, but then it felt like he was always there, boom, boom. And then of course the storylines, that was fun, it's what we wanted, but he was kind of everywhere, and as a big fan of his, I was kind of like, oh, that's cool, but all right, you don't have to do that, and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So, but I was happy he was finally getting back in the ring. So I guess that was a little bit different.
Well, and if you remember, he did come back before the whole Bloodline storyline, which, the perfect way to bring The Rock back would be just a surprise where Roman was at.
Yeah.
Whoever was feuding, especially with Cody, if you wanted to add it to that, just would have been an all-time moment. But instead, like 3 months before they decided to bring him back, in that faction, they brought him back to push, put Austin Theory down,
Yeah.
which is just like, okay,
Yeah.
so they don't always do the best job with those comebacks, but we'll see. I at least we know today that a Hulk Hogan one will be in the store at some point here in the next couple of years. The only other news that we have is Odyssey Jones, of course, the big man, most recently brought up to WWE, the main roster, and in an angle with the New Day. As much as made men as you can say in the WWE, potentially breaking up that group, very much had a dream storyline to walk in on. And apparently that's not going to continue. Austin Jones has been removed from WWE TV, this according to Cage Side Seats and many others, due to domestic violence allegations. Now, right now they're just allegations, but it's far enough that WWE at least wants to separate themselves from that. So not much to say there. No, you don't want to talk about allegations. You don't want to talk about domestic violence. But if you see that story and think, hey, what happened to that big guy that I never knew his name? Well, his name was Odyssey Jones, and yeah, right now he's you don't expect to see him anytime soon. Let's jump into what was Battle in Berlin. They had a few, again, titles lined up. World Heavyweight Championship between Randy Orton and Gunther was going to main event. They opened up with the undisputed WWE Championship match with Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens. You've got CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre, 67, I think, win a strap match. A mixed tag team match with Judgment Day's Dominic Mysterio and Liv Morgan against the Terror Twins. And then Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill against Alba Fire and Isla Dawn of, I forget what their name is, but they've got a little name too, what their tag team name is. But that match went as would expected. So we'll get to that in a second. Let's start with the opening that they did have in Battle in Berlin. Undisputed WWE Championship match between Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens. They really set this up on SmackDown on Friday night, of Kevin Owens being really wanting to see Cody Rhodes 100%. Wouldn't feel good about beating him if he wasn't 100%. But you had a baby face versus a baby face throughout this whole feud. And so it was like, is he going to turn? They played with that on SmackDown. They played with that in the match in Berlin, where Cody Rhodes was, you could tell, having a problem with his knee, and Owens wanted to target it, had to think about it. Eventually did start kicking it and stuff, but a few times hesitated to kind of make that move, and ultimately Cody Rhodes took advantage and pinned Kevin Owens, his friend, for the 3 count there. And so, as I say throughout this show, is that Battle in Berlin you could have just kind of skipped, is that Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens came in as friends. You know Cody Rhodes was going to win. They leave as friends, and you knew Cody Rhodes was going to win. So I thought it was good storytelling. The crowd, like I said, was great. This was the first match for it. They're hot for it. Cody Rhodes is really over, as we know. Kevin Owens very over as well. So it was a good show. Just kind of what you would expect.
Yeah, I agree with you. It wasn't anything to really get that hyped about, except for it was Cody Rhodes versus Kevin Owens. So it was fun there. You do kind of feel bad for the people in Berlin and Germany, because I think they said this was their first time in Germany in like 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
It was a long time, and this is kind of what they got, So you expected something more from Kevin Owens, like you said, he kind of did tease, it like you said on SmackDown, it's like he wanted, Cody Rhodes to kind of go the heel route, and that was a little confusing for me. They're probably going to keep going, with this until there's an eventual turn. But we talked about it last week. You got to strike when the iron's hot, and I feel like they've now missed the boat. This is going to be another, we both agree, CM Punk, Drew McIntyre, where it's like, come on, get something fresh in there. They can do. It was a good match. Don't get me wrong. They can both wrestle. Just for us, who really watch wrestling, can't just turn off our brains at times. You want the storyline to actually mean something. And I know that kind of sounds like a hypocrite, because sometimes I say, I just turn off the storyline and just want to see the matches. But in this instance, you want to see that storyline of Kevin Owens, turn on Cody Rhodes, and they're waiting. And, they didn't pull the trigger, I think, when it should have been done in Berlin. Like you said, with the hot crowd, that crowd would have went crazy. there, and they decided not to do it. So we'll probably get a Cody Rhodes versus Kevin Owens part 2, part 3, part 4. You know, until they decide who they want to to face Cody Rhodes next.
Well, I'll look forward to it. I mean, I at least feel good about any heel work of Kevin Owens, heel turns. I mean, he often does them, and they're fun every time. I always like them, but it's not going to change the fact that I don't believe Kevin Owens is going to beat Cody Rhodes. So it's just kind of keeping things going for the moment. One thing they can do to actually make it a little bit more interesting, I think, is bring Randy Orton back into it. Of course, he went over to Raw for a second to try to win his championship against Gunther. Spoilers, we'll talk about later. He did not win. So he is, I believe, still part of the SmackDown roster. It's always hard to do the math there because WWE doesn't even stick their own rules about that. But between him and KO, they both have a very good history of turning heel and having memorable moments doing it. So you kind of get them all in the ring as friends that are frustrated, and then who's going to turn, and you wouldn't know. At least that would make it a little bit more interesting to me. But we will see. Would that do something for you? I mean, they've all been palling around, so it's not a new guy, but it's a new kind of new dimension for what they were doing with those three.
We talk about it, and Kevin Owens and Randy Orton, their best work is as heels. It would just be hard for me in this to have 2 of the 3 turn heel, or I don't know. It'd be a little bit different. I mean, just surprised us all have Cody Rhodes turn heel, just something like that. I mean,
be surprised.
He's tired of it. He's sick of it. I mean, that'd be something different, but you can't go wrong with Kevin Owens and Randy Orton going heel. I mean, like, the legend killer. I mean, things like that, just because this, while I love what Randy Orton's been doing lately, it just feels off, kind of like Kevin Owens. It's just not their natural, not what they naturally should be doing. They should be heels. So, have that going there because you have no idea what Randy Orton's going with. And I mean, it at least adds some spice to it. But I mean, it'd be fun, but not, I wouldn't be like, oh yeah, this is happening. It'd be a good time filler because we know this is kind of where they lock themselves in. We know Cody Rhodes isn't going to drop that belt until he faces either Roman Reigns again or The Rock. That's kind of where they pin themselves. They got to try to keep us entertained, hooked. And we've agreed. We think Cody Rhodes' title reign has kind of been stale. It's because, we know he's not dropping it. It's very predictable. And like you said, we know Kevin Owens and more than likely Randy Orton are not taking that title from him anytime soon.
Yeah. So we'll see what they do there. Like you said, ultimately the problem is we all know that Cody Rhodes is going to get through it. Sometimes they'll surprise us and have him get pinned in a tag team match by Solo Sikoa, but I don't think that did him any favors either.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, unless they're pulling the trigger fast and Randy Orton takes that title from him for that feud with John Cena that we've all kind of want to see when John, so they can do that, but more than likely Cody is going to retain that.
But it is interesting too, because Solo has made it clear that he wants to go after the championship and Cody again. I don't think there's been enough time in between. No. Like that feels like as much as we're complaining about them just running with KO and Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton, that also feels like we've already seen it.
Yeah, and to me, with Roman Reigns around, he's not going to allow Solo to win that title, which I think is the right decision because we talked about it. Solo was not built up the correct way. He's not going to be a believable champion. And this is one of those, like you said, we're okay with Cody retaining and not going into the storyline with Solo just because we've seen it so much, and Solo's not an over guy. Solo's not a legitimate threat to us. They're trying to build him with this Roman Reigns feud, for the bloodline. But we all agree the most interesting part of that is Roman Reigns. Nobody really cares about Solo. It's who else is going to be involved. The Rock, their family, all that stuff. So, yeah, I wouldn't. No, I would rather he stick with this Kevin Owens, Randy Orton feud or whatever they're going to go with here.
Well, and it could be the old situation like they did last night with CM Punk of, okay, now I'm going after Gunther and then, no, you're not. And then, so it could be Solo has a plan. Roman jumps in the way and then Cody's freed up to still fight with Kevin Owens.
Yeah, but I think we both agree we're not into that. And what they're doing there. So.
The next match on the card, Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill did regain their tag team titles, women's tag team titles against Alba Fire and Isla Dawn. Again, hard fought match, predictable though. In that Belair and Cargill, again, they just probably shouldn't be losing them. They never got pinned to begin with. Usually when a team loses their titles without getting pinned, they're being protected. And so they're kind of being protected here again. I think the whole move, obviously, to put Fire and Dawn, to put the titles on them, one in their home country, to get a pop there. And then the other is just to build up the tag division. Did it do it for you? Is Fire and Dawn more over to you now that they've been champions? Are they more of a formidable opponent against Belair and Cargill moving forward?
My honest answer is no, just because, like you said, I also am under the belief that Bianca and Belair and Jade Cargill just don't have any legitimate opponents, that should take the belts from them. Fire and Dawn, I think, did a good job. They were in some interesting feuds. I think the WWE didn't know what they wanted to do with them. So, they were in constant, triple threats, or whatever they want to call those were, just multiple teams. They did okay. I still just don't think the tag team division is just a mess, and until they get I'll say it, a Sasha Banks back with the Bayley, something like that, or even Charlotte Flair, coming back and teaming with someone. It's hard, it's hard for me to really care. They don't feature, this is the first time they featured them on, a card. And I think, last week we were both saying, why is this one on the card? They just have not done a good job with it, but Fire and Dawn did as best they could, but Belair and Cargo, I think, should just hold it for right now until, they somehow build somebody up and they're not going to do it, but I thought Nia and Tiffy would have been fun.
Yeah.
That would have been a great two legitimate tag teams, but they're going on their own storyline and, they're not going to go after it.
Yeah. And they likely won't be friends after their own storyline afterwards. So we'll probably never see that, but yeah, it is what it is. I think I do at least see what they tried to do and try to put another team over and give them the belt for a while. But it's one of those things too. An unholy union is what they go by. And they're just, I think they've kind of got a problem, and they do this sometimes with teams that they want to what almost like it's like a forced trying to put over, because they don't really have a gimmick. Or at least I have trouble saying it. They're like witches or something, but they don't really go into it. So they're just kind of never had a gimmick, but now that they've had a title, are they over and then the gimmick comes in? They gotta find a personality there. And so I don't know. It's interesting the way that they've done it. I at least think that it adds a little bit. At least seeing them on TV over and over again. Whereas when they gained the belt, I was just kind of like, I don't really know who these people are. Now, at least you kind of know them. So I think it's done them a little bit of a favor. And obviously a championship is always going to be a little bit of a favor for them. But I think you are right in totality that, there's just no one to challenge Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair. And there really shouldn't. And then, the other problem, like we saw on Raw last night on the men's side, is how much do you care about the tag team titles to begin with? The women's tag team titles have never been too cared for. And they feel especially that way when you just put two single stars together real quick. Now, Belair and Cargill have been together long enough and now have two reigns that they actually kind of feel like a tag team. So I think they've taken steps. It still doesn't keep me necessarily glued to the TV with it, but I think it's at least they've done themselves some favors there.
Yeah, and with Belair and Cargill, they have a chance to do something that they're not doing. Something to correct is why, we complain about it. Why are the tag team champions losing every week? And with Belair and Cargill, they're too, they don't get pinned. Yeah, they don't get pinned. So they have a chance to make it a legitimate championship. Because Finn Balor, JD McDonough, you would forget they're the, like you said, they're the tag team champs on the men's side too. And they keep losing, this sounds awful. Who's the tag team champions on SmackDown? I don't even remember who that is. For the men's.
Yeah,
that's how bad it is. With that, it was DIY, and they the Bloodline.
The Bloodline, yeah.
They're running with that.
Well, I don't blame you for not remembering that, or me, because they don't even know which members of the Bloodline they want to have it.
Exactly. So they have a good chance here with Belair and Cargill too. Just keep the belt on them. Have them have. I know it might be boring to some people, but build them back up. In a way, because just those tag team championships, somebody will win them one night, the very next night they're fed, to a single star, and that just doesn't sit right with me. So they have a chance to do something here.
Well, and I'd like to see them take that chance. And like we said, they didn't get pinned, so they never really should have lost the titles. But it reminds me of when they had Ronda Rousey and Baszler win the titles, and everybody was kind of thinking the same thing. Oh, sweet, they might care about these titles. These girls are going to run through their competition, and they just didn't. And it was like, okay, this has been like fantasy booked, not just for the years that Ronda's been on the roster, but anytime, as soon as she flirted with the WWE. It's like, oh man, it'd be really cool if she got together with Ronda Rousey and they just run through everybody. And it just didn't happen. And then they had the split, which was already like, all right, publicly known that Rousey's contract was going to end. So they just didn't handle that well at all. We've said it moving forward though too, is that Cargill needs a partner right now. And so, there's always that idea. And what would be the great idea in our minds is, okay, well, the old typical tag team doesn't get along and then they start feuding into a singles feud. But I don't know. We'll have to see if she's ready for that. At some point, of course, that's to pull the trigger. But if they feel like they have to buy time, they might have no choice but to have them run ramshot over the rest of the division.
Yeah, I mean, WrestleMania is 7 months away? So that's a long time to run a storyline there. But I mean, I don't see any other way, like I said, unless they, the unholy union of, some Charlotte and Bayley. That would be fun. That could be fun. And, we've talked about Bayley's championship run wasn't great. Charlotte Flair comes back and wins championships, the second she walks back. So that could be something fun. But, I'm just dreaming there, for something for them to make them relevant again. So,
yeah, who are we kidding? They'll just battle unholy union for the next 3 pay-per-views and who knows what'll happen. But let's take a quick break here on 93.7 The Ticket. This is Nuclear Heat, our WWE Week in Review. We've got a little bit through Battle in Berlin. We'll finish up our review there and then jump into our Raw and SmackDown review as well. That's coming up next here on 93.7 The Ticket. We'll be right back.
If you're a homeowner or a business owner, you have a lot of projects, and no one has an unlimited budget or time. Sunbelt Rentals makes all jobs less stressful with no need to purchase large equipment or hire a crew. You can do it yourself with rentals and everything from aerators and power rakes for spring yard work to stump grinders, concrete mixers, tile saws, and more. Check out their inventory in Lincoln, north of Cornhusker Highway on 56th Street, or online at sunbeltrentals.com. Follow the Huskers to the City of Angels when Nebraska plays at USC in November. Book your official Nebraska alumni travel package at huskerfantravel.com. Choose from 2 or 3 night options that include a downtown LA hotel, exclusive welcome event, game day transportation, and the official Husker Huddle pregame party. Add on game tickets for an optional upgrade. Transportation to and from LA not included. Join the official Nebraska alumni trip to see the Huskers play at USC. Spots are limited, so book your trip now at huskerfantravel.com.
Hi, Sean Callahan here for Koppel Chevrolet GMC, and Truck Month is back. We have absolutely gigantic savings right now at Koppel. They are offering $12,500 off on select new pickups. That is not a mistake. You heard right. $12,500 off list price right now on select new pickups. Those discounted units, though, will not last long. These are all manager specials. You have to come in now, so hurry in down 144th Street or shop online at koppelcars.com. You'll be glad you did. Stock number G356093 must trade.
Your child was embarrassed when you arrived at their basketball game. 75% of parents or guardians report current alcohol use. Drinking alcohol can cause harm to children and loved ones. By drinking less, your child will be excited to see you at their basketball game. If you or a loved one is looking for help, find a treatment facility near you at findtreatment.gov. For immediate support, call, text, or chat 988.
Brought to you by Nebraska DHHS in partnership with SAMHSA.
Rain, snow, or shine, John Henry's is here to keep your home's plumbing systems working properly no matter what kind of weather Nebraska throws at us. From unclogging toilets and drains to installing new water heaters and water treatment systems, John Henry's is your plumbing expert in the Lincoln and Omaha communities. Visit us at calljh.com or call
John Henry's.
435-5555. John Henry's Plumbing, Heating and Air,
and Electrical.
For 15 years, Farrell's Extreme Body Shaping has been helping Lincoln become healthier, happier, and more fit through our proven combination of kickboxing, strength training, and nutrition coaching. And to celebrate 15 years of success, we're offering you 50% off our next 10-week challenge beginning September 14th. That's 10 weeks of fun group fitness classes and individualized coaching for half off. And at the end of the 10 weeks, someone's walking away with $1,000 for the best transformation. Come check it out. What do you have to lose? Click on the banner at theticketfm.com to learn more. Farrell's Extreme Body Shaping at 40th and Yankee Hill or 70th and Vine. And check us out online at fxblincoln.com.
It's the greatest time of the year again. Kickoff is here and football is officially back. Over 1 million fans across 33 states got in the game last year by making picks on Underdog, and this year you can too. Making picks on Underdog is straightforward and signing up is even easier. Just head over to Underdog's simple-to-use mobile app or UnderdogFantasy.com and sign up with promo code EARLY, and Underdog will give you a free pick to use on your first cash pick'em entry, plus up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you deposit. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code EARLY to claim your new customer special of a free pick and your deposit offer. Must be 19 plus in Nebraska and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com. On the internet. KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket. Back to Nuclear Heat with your host, Jake Bakoven, on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Having some fun here on a Tuesday night, talking wrestling here on 93.7 The Ticket. Once again, I am Jake Bakoven. This is Nuclear Heat. Augie Pena, my tag team partner, Nuclear Heat contributor here as we jump through and look through the matches at Battle in Berlin. We got through a few of them in that first segment. But we did well for ourselves. Sometimes we start to talk about the wrong things, and maybe we did spend a little bit more time than we needed to on some of the talent, but that's part of the show. That's part of the fun. So let's jump right into the next matches in Battle in Berlin. How about the strap match between CM Punk and Drew McIntyre? This was ultimately won by CM Punk. He hit several go-to-sleeps, I think 4 of them, and ultimately got his bracelet back that he wanted with the name of his wife and his dog on it, Larry and AJ, I believe. Yeah. And had to touch all 4 corners for the strap match rules to get the win, but really hard-hitting match. And I think the crowd ate it up. I think, maybe the reason why they continue the CM Punk Drew McIntyre feud is at least live. That's always going to be a good match and entertaining and fun. But if you've listened to our show, you already know our thoughts. This match, there's some wear on fans that have been waiting for CM Punk to come back for 10 years, and then he does, and he's only interacting with Drew McIntyre over and over and over again. And we'll go ahead and bring in last night's beatdown just to continue what was going on with this storyline. Is ultimately CM Punk came out after his victory, wanted to move off the Drew McIntyre stuff. Of course, McIntyre has tried to move off the CM Punk stuff at some time. CM Punk shows up, ruins it for him. So Drew McIntyre returns the favor, beats up CM Punk, puts the bracelet in his mouth. They have to ultimately stretcher CM Punk out of there. Drew McIntyre comes back, almost gorges his eyes out. Looks like Game of Thrones there. He's got his, blood going there. And that's one of those moments I saw. I think Raj Giri tweeted it out that his daughter had to ask him, is this real? So it's that wrestling point that I always like, where it's like, even wrestling, people know wrestling's fake, but there's always that if they do a good enough job, people go, well, I don't know if this part's fake though. And of course it all is, playing into it, but so they're continuing this thing, which ultimately, again, could have maybe been predicted at this point. I didn't think that this strap match was going to be the be all end all. And so again, kind of takes away from, the gravity of the win, the victory for CM Punk. And then the other thing I don't think they necessarily did themselves a good deal of doing was last night going on Raw and at least flirting with the idea that CM Punk was going to go after Gunther. Because then, my mind immediately went to, oh, this is going to be fresh. This is going to be fun. Thank God they're moving him off of McIntyre. Like, you think all of that within 30 seconds, and then McIntyre comes back and you're like, well, I should have saw that coming. And I ultimately did know that was coming. But I guess it just... Man, and they did introduce Gunther's next opponent as well. But to me, even mentioning, okay, CM Punk, Gunther, I'm thinking that's going to be great. That's going to be new, going to be fresh, like I said. And here we are with more Drew McIntyre and CM Punk, more reasons to hate each other. The bracelet is broken, so there is that now too. But it's just, I guess we're going to continue doing this.
Yeah, I'm with you. 100%. I was happy CM Punk was going to call out, calling out Gunther, and I was like, yes, here we go. And then nope, that didn't get to happen. So that was kind of a disappointment there of the night. And for everything we say, we're kind of, I don't know if bored is the right word to say of it, but we're just ready for them to move on. They put on great matches. They do. And, when they beat, like you said, when they beat each other up, it's phenomenal there. But, I'm really hoping, because it's predictable. It's 1-1 right now. Winner take all, third match, hopefully, because, then they can both go on to do
Bad Blood makes a lot of sense, right? They built it up for that.
Yeah, they're trying to really build up, the Bad Blood.
Yeah.
And the premium live event there. So that makes sense. But I'm with you. I just get this one out, get this one over with. We know CM Punk's going to be away next week. Drew's going to talk about, he put him out. He's going to try to go on a different storyline, something like that. And then the next week, CM Punk's going to come back and then it's right back to it. It's, we can predict it. It can be somewhat predictable, but they have to be selective with how predictable they are on some things. And we've talked about, being predictable for the right reasons. And this one, I don't think is, because they've just really, they didn't strike when they did strike when the iron was hot to a point, but they're kind of just trying to milk it for as much as they can on there. I think CM Punk versus Gunther would have been amazing. I would have been, the way they talk, they're both arrogant. They both think they're the best. Gunther has a claim to it right now because he is a champion. And that, I think that would have been fun. And, there would have been really no outside interference. I know Kaiser's there, but I think Gunther would have wanted this. And
Kaiser hasn't really done that so far.
No, and it would have been great, but if they would have moved on, you would have had McIntyre, could have cost him, and they could have gone ways there. But here we go again. Another one, like you said, I thought it was kind of a fun match. I watched it, as I watched it all, I thought it was fun. Like you said, the crowd, I think, made it a little bit more enjoyable. On there, and CM Punk Drew can always fight. They're always going to be great. And then you put them together, just the extra stuff is just killing me, man. I just want a one-on-one CM Punk Drew McIntyre. I don't even want a street fight at this point. At first I did, no disqual. Right now, last man stand. I just want a one-on-one. Who can pin, 1, 2, 3, just an old fashioned. Here we go. That's all I want now to finish this trilogy off.
Now, one thing that they probably will do, and as we're again looking forward to Bad Blood, is maybe you could do the the Hell in the Cell match there, and at least that would feel like they would do a better job of protecting Hell in a Cell, because Hell in a Cell at one time was like a big deal. Like a feud had to get to this point, that the only way to really finish it up would be a Hell in a Cell. That's the only way we could do it. And then over the years, they realized people loved Hell in the Cell matches. They made a whole pay-per-view about it. And then 2 weeks before, it stopped being like blood feuds, and it was just like 2 weeks before, it's like, well, Hell in a Cell's around the corner. You want to battle in Hell in a Cell? So at least, I think that if that is what their thought process behind all of this, as a big Hell in a Cell fan, I suppose I can forgive it. But I outside of that, I am. I'm just frustrated, just looking for something new again, and maybe it's part of the problem is it's still entertaining. Like Drew McIntyre is still so entertaining, and CM Punk just in WWE, it's still somewhat fresh that I'll watch it regardless. And so maybe they just know you got you there. So it is what it is. I'm ready for it to move on. They might not. If it ends in Hell in a Cell, again, I think I can forgive it.
I mean, if it's going to be Hell in a Cell, one of them either the Claymore kick off the cell is going to happen, or they go to sleep off. It's got to end that way. I think, if with everything they've worked it up, somebody's got to fall.
That would be. They need a big payoff.
A huge payoff. I would enjoy that. But if they're not going to do that, I think it just needs to be a standard 1, 2, 3. No funny
clear
business.
victory.
Come on, end it. Because to me, storylines 3 is kind of the max we want to see, right? If they want to pick it up in a year or 2. That's fine. Give it some time.
You don't like the Andrade Carmelo Hayes going to 5 rounds?
Why? Why? Especially for them. Nobody. I was gonna say, I forgot they're in a feud.
Yeah,
they're in.
They
a
take
feud
time. They
SmackDown.
take breaks for their feuds, and they come back every other SmackDown and fight each other.
I mean, but I'm fine with if throughout the years we're gonna get an occasional run in. But just leave the bracelets out of it unless you're going to bring the dog and AJ Lee on. Like I've said, I want to see the dog at this point.
I want to see AJ Lee. So.
I mean, that would be fun too. She talk about, rejuvenating the tag team division or, just the women's roster.
Feud, everything.
I mean, hey, I don't know who Drew McIntyre's wife in, but hey, give her a kayfabe, give him a kayfabe wife, of a former wrestler. And there you go. You got something there. Make it Melina. Oh my goodness.
Don't say that. Oh
my gosh.
That happens with Edge all the time, where he's in like a blood feud, and then all of a sudden they're like, well, what if we have a mixed tag team match with your wife again? And you're like, oh, this kind of kills it.
I mean, I don't want that. I just said no funny business. But hey, if they're going to go funny business, you bring AJ Lee, you bring someone else in. I mean, I don't know who Drew McIntyre's associated with, but I mean, if you can get AJ Lee, that's adding something. And the dog. Hey, the dog.
Larry.
You got to bring Larry in.
Yeah, we got to see Larry at some point. So there we go. Speaking of mixed tag team matches, we did have Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest. The Terror Twins take on Liv Morgan and Dominic Mysterio. Of course, the remaining members of Judgment Day did get involved. Ultimately, Damian Priest was able to kind of get rid of them for the moment, while Mommy flattened Morgan for the Riptide and the win. Yes, I'll call her Mommy. I try to do it without sounding too silly. They do a good job of it now, but it is a bit strange here on radio. But it is what it is. And ultimately, I think that they made a good decision here. You always kind of had an imbalance where Liv Morgan is, the champion. Rhea Ripley's on that level. Damian Priest is on that level. And Dominic Mysterio is not, because they won't give him any wins. So it was always kind of expected to be Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest to win this without, the outside interference. So they did that well. One thing I will have a complaint about all this is that at one point, coming off the last Premium Live event, I wanted to see Damian Priest versus Finn Balor. I wanted to see that throughout Damian Priest's run. So this is a lot, and I think they'll get back to it, because Finn Balor said he's going to be backstabbing Balor, basically. And so I think you're going to wait for Damian Priest to almost, get his hands on something, and Balor's going to come in and restart that feud. But I just am a little bit upset, for the first Universal Champion, a guy that should be a little bit more respected. He's just getting swatted away like a fly, like McDonough is and like Carlito is, and I just don't like it.
Yeah, I thought the match went the way it should have. I'm fine with Rhea getting the pin on Liv. But man, did they make Liv just look really weak in this match too. I've mentioned it. They really worked Liv up to be like a champion, somebody we respected. She worked her way up, was getting win after win. And now she becomes a member of the New Day or the Judgment Day. She's right there with them. This was essentially, outside of a little bit of offense from Dominic and Liv. You could almost say it's almost a squash, at a point, without the interference. I'm with you. They tried to have, it was weird because, there was action, Rhea pinned Liv, and then Finn was on the outside. They tried to pan to him, and he's like, really gritting his teeth, and he's like just lasers at Damian, and Damian's kind of there, and then they cut away real fast, and it's like, oh yeah, they have something going on, and it was just really weird. It was a fun match, I thought, to watch on there, but to me, it was almost like, okay, Rhea and Liv, kind of makes sense because, they're going after the championship there. I mean, with Damian, it's all kind of just having Rhea's back and, still revenge on Finn, but they're not really doing anything with it. Like you said, it's just a little confusing on how they're going about it. It's still fun, and I still think Damian and Rhea are great, and obviously the Judgment Day, we like them, even though they're unfortunately being jobbed, to everybody out there. But it just, to me, like, they got to be careful with how they go with this, because they can only do this for so long before I think people really start to lose interest. And they're doing something with Damian now. We thought he had kind of a stale run, title run.
Yeah.
We talked about it. They've got him hot with Rhea now.
Oh, yeah.
They're doing something. You got to be careful with kind of how you proceed with this, I think.
Yeah, and again, maybe this was to get back at Dominic, and so that part of the storyline. But I think you need to get again back into Finn Balor, and I personally would have loved if they built Dominic up to this point. I've been saying it for years, to where this would have looked like an even match and like a formidable foe for Damian Priest, but it's not, and that's the. I think I've mixed my letters around there. Formidable foe, but in any case, they just haven't done enough for him. So I'm ready to see Damian Priest in Finn Balor. So now we get to the World Heavyweight Championship between Randy Orton and Gunther. We have a lot of complaints about Battle in Berlin, and I think part of the problem, and maybe it's because Bad Blood is next, and so you need all these hot feuds, blood feuds to boil over, month-long feuds to get to Bad Blood. But I think the World Heavyweight Championship between Orton and Gunther is the only one we're going to get any finality on out of this Premium Live event. We just mentioned Judgment Day and the Terror Twins. They right away next night or last night on Raw continued that feud. CM Punk, Drew McIntyre continued that feud last night on Raw. Belair and Cargill, they're going to be facing Fire and Dawn again because Fire and Dawn won a match on Raw. So that's continuing. Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens, like we said, maybe that's done, but it's unlikely. So finally we get to a match that this was the end-all be-all, and it was Randy Orton and Gunther. Great interest from Randy Orton, and I know we've been talking about maybe turning him heel because we love heel Orton, but man, is he over as a face right now. The crowd kind of loves it at this point in his career, especially in Germany. Had a very big pop for his entrance. The crowd was also doing the wave at certain times. Randy Orton played into it. So he's just a pro's pro and a lot of fun to watch. In a very good competition for Gunther here. Of course, you had the legacy storyline of him going for title number 15.
Yeah.
And Gunther, of course, on his first title reign. Very good, hard-hitting affair. Eventually, Gunther had gotten the sleeper on Randy Orton one too many times. Randy passes out. Gunther wins. And at the end, you get a handshake, which is interesting. And I think the right move still with Gunther. They're kind of building him, obviously, as this heel, turn against the crowd, all that sort of thing. But they still want to get the respect. And so when you see a universally respected wrestler like Randy Orton give the respect, it definitely helps put Gunther over that much more as the champion.
Yeah, get the Orton rub there. I think Orton, on the roster, he's probably got to be the most decorated guy right now that's active. And while he hasn't won a championship in a little bit, he still wins matches. He still does great things. And I agree with you. I thought this was a great match of the night. This one, was one of the two I was really excited for on there. My only complaint, and I know this is me just nitpicking at the moment. I don't like that it was a tap out due to a sleeper. That's kind of the one thing to me. I'm not a huge fan of title matches, like not on, main events. I don't like them in tap outs. That's just me in general. John Cena, I do for a bit, when he did the, what does he call it now? It used to be something I probably shouldn't say on the air. But the one lock he used to do, I thought that was fun. I mean, with Gunther, it is believable too, but and then Randy gets back up, like you said, shakes his hand and stuff. That to me, I don't like it. I wish it would have been, a 1, 2, 3. But other than that, I thought it was great. On there, I think Gunther is a moneymaker right now. You go with that. Randy Orton, as you said, he can just be injected into anything and kind of just give it life. I mean, gosh, I'm glad you brought up that wave segment to me. And he was trying to get Gunther, he's like, okay, you're next. And Gunther's like, no. And he's like, all right. I thought that was phenomenal on there. But man, and another thing I'm noticing, they're doing a pattern with Gunther, and, we'll talk about Raw, but they're really building him up because, they're kind of trying to erase his mistakes he's done or, his errors of the way. With Orton, was it a pin?
Yeah.
His next opponent, Sami Zayn, beat him, took the title away from him, so they're trying to really build him up there. And I'm liking that storyline. And let's be honest, I know there are people that aren't Gunther fans, but the guy can do it all. Not the greatest on the mic, but he can get people to really, he can really get under people's skins with what he says. And then, in the ring, of course, he's phenomenal.
Yeah, putting on some really good matches. That'll wrap it up for our Battle in Berlin coverage. We will talk about Raw and SmackDown. As we just have a few minutes left here on Nuclear Heat, we'll get to the main storylines out of that. Coming up next year on 93.7 The Ticket.
Back to Nuclear Heat.
Looking for a place to relax and unwind after a busy day? Cigars Lounge at 8th and Q in the Haymarket is the perfect place to enjoy good company, a cocktail, and of course a cigar. Visit Cigars Lounge on Tuesdays for Top Shelf Tuesday and enjoy 50% off select spirits. Cigars Lounge offers Perdomo, San Cristobal, Rock Patel, and more of the top stogie brands that you know and love. But that's not all. If you mention this ad between noon and 5 p.m., you'll receive 15% off your entire tab just by mentioning the ticket. Check out Cigars Lounge today at 8th and Q in the Haymarket.
For 15 years, Farrell's Extreme Body Shaping has been helping Lincoln become healthier, happier, and more fit through our proven combination of kickboxing, strength training, and nutrition coaching. And to celebrate 15 years of success, we're offering you 50% off our next 10-week challenge beginning September 14th. That's 10 weeks of fun group fitness classes and individualized coaching for half off. And at the end of the 10 weeks, someone's walking away with $1,000 for the best transformation. Come check it out. What do you have to lose? Click on the banner at theticketfm.com to learn more. Farrell's Extreme Body Shaping at 40th and Yankee Hill or 70th and Vine. And check us out online at fxblincoln.com.
Prashawn Jackson here for Bauer Underground, who has been serving local contractors and utility contractors all across the state since 1997. When you see the black and white trucks, you know the baddest dudes in the business have arrived. Bauer is currently looking for equipment operators, laborers, diesel mechanics, and aerial linemen. Join the brotherhood built on hard work, authentic people, and pedigree of success. Bauer, a family-friendly company who reminds you, go Big Red!
Have you ever gotten a car deal so good that you can brag about for decades? This is that deal. The government has given us a $4,000 instant credit on vehicles already at the historically lowest prices. Cars that were over $50,000 just 2 years ago are now selling below $20,000. See the deals here and drive away the car of your dreams at a price you never thought possible. Go to 4000off.com, 400off.com to learn more.
Fall is the perfect time to work on outdoor projects. Whether you plan to install a fence or add shrubs to your landscape, don't risk an injury by hitting a buried power line. Always call 811 before you dig.
93.7 The Ticket, Fox, KFXL weather. Sponsored by John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning.
Your Lincoln forecast for today, we'll see lots of sunshine with a light south breeze. We'll see an afternoon high around 84. Tonight, clear skies with an overnight low around 59. And tomorrow, more sunshine with a continued south breeze and an afternoon high around 90. I'm meteorologist Kyle Kleckner for 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Back to Nuclear Heat with your host, Jake Bakoven, on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
I am Jake Bakoven. Occupying with me here as we wrap up Nuclear Heat. Just a few minutes to go to talk about SmackDown and Raw. Of course, SmackDown was before Battle in Berlin and Raw was afterwards, but nevertheless, you've got stories that will be bleeding over into next week. Let me say this. As a Ludwig Kaiser fan, I've been pleased with my SmackDown and Raw viewing. It's very cool to see Ludwig Kaiser in Berlin, his home country. Very much got to take a break from being the heel. Everybody loved him up there against LA Knight. I think if we were in the same room, I know you're a big LA Knight guy, we would have been very much cheering for the opposite guys. Ultimately, LA Knight gets the win, and I can agree is probably the right move. But I would like to see Ludwig Kaiser more prominently featured, and I'd like to see how they've been using him.
Yeah, it was good. It was fun. The crowd was really into it. I thought it would have been cool to see the European title, come back, because that's what Kaiser was saying he was going to turn it into.
Turn the U.S. title into European title.
I thought they had enough. I don't want LA Knight to lose it, 100%. You know that, but I was like,
could be interesting.
Title, that would have been, that's maybe their teeth, I don't know, but it was fun. It was a good segment, good for Kaiser. I thought he did a good job. The crowd loved it.
Yeah. Kaiser's wasn't too downtrodden about his loss in the U.S. title championship, because he would go on to go after the Intercontinental title on Monday. So kind of interesting there. Also on SmackDown, the other thing I really wanted to get to was the Nia Jax Mia Yim street fight. This was good. I enjoyed this. The street fight obviously can be. Mia Yim came out there with a lot of weapons, and they used a lot of them throughout the match. At one point, Mia Yim got the upper hand. Tiffany Stratton's music hits. She comes out. Of course, she's got the money in the bank. She can cash in. She first uses it on Mia Yim to set her down, and then looks at Nia Jax and considers maybe there for a second cashing in. Nia gives her a look, and then she decides that, that's all she was doing. She's going after Mia Yim. So there you have it. The Irresistible Force ultimately did put Yim through a table, and then Samoan dropped her through a table, I should say, and then did the Annihilator on Mia Yim while Mia Yim was in a trash can. So again, love street fights. That was a lot of fun, and Nia Jax looked really good here.
No, yeah, I agree. It was fun. It's funny. I think this is a great storyline. Having Tiffany Stratton in there. Bayley also came back, which is she'll continue that. But yeah, Nia Jax's title run's already been better than Bayley's. Just because of Tiffany Stratton. And I thought it was hilarious that she did the Annihilator on her in a trash can. I thought that was, you got to make sure, Mia Yim's okay after that, but it was fun.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Bayley. I completely forgot to mention Bayley did came back, and that should be a big return. Again, that's where we talk about the returns from early in the show. Just hasn't been gone for all that long. But she's apparently going to be going after Tiffany Stratton, and that gives Tiffany something to do. So that'll be a lot of fun moving forward. Let's jump to Raw last night. First of all, Joe Tessitore in the booth. Maybe still a little bit green as far as some of the wrestlers and the moves and stuff going on, but he's going to be great. As we know, as college football fans, he often gets really good calls. And if you give him the opportunity, and obviously in wrestling, it's scripted. So there's always going to be a good game, good match on, and Joe Tessitore will do great with it. So very much looking forward to that. A couple of things we should mention. There is the Intercontinental Championship. What do they call it? Fatal 4-Way coming up. So people had to have some qualifying matches. They ultimately had Dragon Lee, Ilya Dragunov, and Dominic Mysterio go at it. Dominic Mysterio chased out by Priest. I think they missed something there. We were talking about this off air. Mysterio, this is the second time I think that he's been in one of these matches to get into one of these Fatal 4-Ways. I think that spot's much more effectively done in the Fatal 4-Way, so you feel like you're stealing something from Dom there. He also gets over a little bit by finally getting a win here and there, but instead they give it to Ilya Dragunov, who I don't think is going to win it. So, again, you could have done this all down the line a little bit, but Dragunov is very entertaining, and Dragon Lee is there.
Yeah, we agree. Like you said, we talked about it. I wish it would have been Dominic, but Dragunov, he and Braun Breaker, have had some good matches there. But, man, I really wish it would have been Dominic Mysterio, man. When was the last time he won a match? He just doesn't win, and they're all jobbers. Like you said, it can further the storylines, make it, a little bit better there, and they just choose to, hey, if the Judgment Day's in there, they're losing right away. They're not even making it out of the first round, and that's so disappointing because, like you said, Dom, he still has the most heat. He gets booed. Nobody lets him talk. He's hilarious, and they've really missed their opportunities with him on that. But good job for, Dragunov. He'll, at least he's great in the ring. So that's something.
Then the other match to qualify for the Fatal 4-Way was Braun Strowman, who recently took a tsunami? Onto a car this previous week from Bronson Reed. So I think they had to write Bronson Reed off due to COVID-19. So he had kind of had that. So we'll see what they do there. They did a good job, at least, keeping Braun Strowman injured throughout the night. So that was kind of the story they were telling. He went up against Sheamus, who has ultimately never won the Intercontinental title. They say that every time he's going after it. I think that's a story they need to keep going until he does win, is always bring that up. He was taken out of this match by Pete Dunne. And then, as we mentioned earlier, Ludwig Kaiser getting an opportunity. Braun Strowman gets the win. But really, they've been telling the story, and they continue to tell it backstage with Braun Breaker telling Jey Uso to just kind of get out of this whole thing altogether. Jey Uso's already qualified. So kind of lets you know Jey Uso is going to win that and then ultimately go up against Braun Breaker. That didn't keep them from double booking Jey Uso in the main event with Damian Priest against Finn Balor and JD McDonough. They get the win. Not much to say there, except for they didn't protect your tag team champions.
Nope, not at all. And, I thought it'd be fun to see Jey Uso and Damian Priest, and it was, but then they, of course, made it cringe and had Rhea, doing the yeet with him afterwards. I'm just not for that, man. But, it is something we wanted to see. Jey Uso, Rhea, they've kind of been teasing, flirting with each other, and she asked him for help. He came by. I mean, this could be something, but like you said, they've kind of got him double dipping in two different storylines. So when that happens, he's not going to, win the, really not going to do much in the Intercontinental Championship. So I wish they just kind of focused him on one thing, but it's a great way to end the night. I guess, the crowd was there, but us fans, we were kind of like, yeah, all right.
Yeah, there seems to be something there. If you did, team up Damian Priest and Jey Uso and Rhea, you maybe could kind of start your own little faction there, but they just started Terror Twins and you can't have Terror Triplets.
I mean, maybe. Something I want to see is, hey, how about just have Jey Uso and Damian Priest just take those tag team championships away from the Judgment Day? That'd add something on there too.
You could do that.
I mean, that'd be fun.
Yeah. There's a possibility, and plenty of possibilities of wrestling. They'll write it. We'll talk about it. They'll perform it, and then we'll talk about it, I should say, in that order. But that'll wrap it up for Nuclear Heat this week. Thanks again to Augie Patey for jumping in the studio with me, and thank you for listening here on 93.7 The Ticket. We'll be back next week to talk another week of WWE wrestling here on 93.7 The Ticket.
It's the greatest time of the year again. Kickoff is here and football is officially back. Over 1 million fans across 33 states got in the game last year by making picks on Underdog, and this year you can too. Making picks on Underdog is straightforward and signing up is even easier. Just head over to Underdog's simple-to-use mobile app or UnderdogFantasy.com and sign up with promo code EARLY, and Underdog will give you a free pick to use on your first cash pick'em entry, plus up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you deposit. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code EARLY to claim your new customer special of a free pick and your deposit offer. Must be 19 plus in Nebraska and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org.
With the Planet Fitness Black Card, you don't just get a great workout, you get a great perk out because your membership is packed with perks. For $1 down and $24.99 a month, you'll get perks like access to any of our 2,400 clean and spacious locations. Bring your friend anytime and both work out with tons of equipment that'll give you that big fitness energy. Relax in the Black Card spa and more. Work out and perk out with the PF Black Card. Join for just $1 down and $24.99 a month.
Hurry, this deal ends soon.
See Home Club for details.
College football in Lincoln, America. The time has come. Start your game day off right with the A1 Automotive Ticket Tailgate pregame show. Join the ticket crew as they bring you all the coverage you need to get you ready for the action. It's the A1 Automotive Ticket Tailgate pregame show. Brought to you by General Fire and Safety, Raisin Canes, Perch Merch, Sunbelt Rentals, Mullen Motors, Select Plumbing, and the Kindler Hotel. On 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.